Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of the State Committee and the Executive Board. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and I commend you on your leadership, and as well as all the Democratic chairs and the members of the State Committee. I just want to give I got a couple minutes allotted to me, and I want to tell you, look, I've been a Democrat all my life. I've stood with the veterans. I've stood with the seniors. I've stood with the students. I stood with the small business people. I stood publicly to admonish the Trump administration on the DACA students. Publicly, I stood and called out the Trump administration to protect those students. I stood and called out the Trump administration when they called out the Haitian community, and I stood with the Haitian community, and I called out the White House and told them that any ugly or discriminatory or angry words spoken in my house, your house, or the White House is wrong. I stood with separating families before even the last month happened. We had a family came to our office who was going to be separated within 24 hours of their family. He was going to be sent back to Guatemala. And I stood in there and we worked and made sure that that didn't happen. That family's still here today, long before what was happening on the Mexican border. And I did. I stood against the Trump administration on the Affordable Care Act. I've been out publicly stating when they were going to remove the preconditions and also the 26-year-olds and the attack on the Affordable Care Act. I have stood publicly and spoke out against that. So I have stood with the municipal leaders. I have been a mayor. I have been elected 6 times as a Democrat in my hometown. I've been elected as Democrat last year, 4 years ago, as a Democrat in a primary and in the general election. And I stood with members of the current administration, with Governor Raimondo and Nellie Gorbea and South Magazine and Peter Pelmonten, and that was the first time in 20 some odd years that we had a Democrat in each and every office. And we're going to do it again. I have stood with women in terms of sexual violence on campus. I've stood with the, I see the college students in the back there, and they certainly have been an inspiration to all of us. I have stood with the activism of the young people in the state of Rhode Island, whether it's on the women's issues, whether it's on health care, whether it's on education. I have stood strongly in those positions, and I challenge anyone in this room to say that I haven't. Anyone. So I ask you, I stand here tonight asking for the endorsement of the Democratic State Committee. I have stood on every issue that matters. I have worked as hard as I could. I have had a theme that 39 cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island matter. I have had a theme that said everyone that lives in those communities matter. And as you heard from Senator Casada, I have had a theme, and I believe in it, that every community that lives inside those communities matter. So I stand here tonight, and I humbly ask you for your vote for endorsement for this year for Lieutenant Governor in this election, and I promise you that we will continue to move the Democratic Party forward in this state, and we will stand up against any national agenda that somehow wants to come into our state to hurt the families that live in our state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.